Nancy Aronson actually got a job. Nancy Aronson, who has the smile, the background on Zoom. She actually started a job yesterday. So she can't make it today, but she sends her best wishes. Maybe unless she can chime in during her lunch hour, but she said she's really, really busy. And
one thing that was very different about it was the whole thing happened in one day.
It did, exactly. It happened in one day.
Just
a person she did not even know.
Yep, that's right. A group I had never heard of.
Yeah, that's why that is such a great thing. I mean, she actually, the way it happened in less than 24 hours. So, I mean, there is definitely good things coming up for all of us. So, very happy to have Chris Shea today as our speaker. Chris and I think, met probably last November, December, maybe, Chris. I'm not exactly sure.
Somewhere in there.
Chris is up in, I guess, Boston right now.
Yep.
And he's going to be talking today a little bit specifically about things you can do to be saving money and, from a budget standpoint as you're in transition. I know Chris had a presentation. If you wanted to, keep chat, I'm going to look at the chat to see what questions may come up. You tell me how you want to handle this specifically, because that would be helpful to me. So whenever you're ready.
Great. So I can do my presentation whenever you want to get started.
Sure, whenever you're ready.
You have questions in the chat, that's great. I'm also going to post in the chat right now a PDF document that everyone can have. Let me figure out how to do that. I had it, so I can do that. Then check to, oh.
If you don't have it now, we can always send it afterwards, or you can send it to me and I can add it.
No, I have it. I was able to share it in the chat earlier, and then when you made me the co-host, somehow it went away.
Well, it should be a way on the bottom where you can, with the file, where you can attach it. Or yeah, if you want to email it to me, I'll just put it in the chat.
Oh, there it is. Hold on.
Okay.
I'll pop it up there, and then we can do it later.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a participation guide that you guys can all have and take with you after this. I can put it up there again, but we're going to kind of go through it a little bit because normally this presentation is about half an hour, but hopefully we get a little bit more participation from people, and it lasts probably a little bit longer than that. So we shall see, but the participation, it's called Money Matters. And let me start the slideshow, hopefully.
No.
Hopefully. So we're going to go through this a little bit. And as you go through, if you have questions, comments, concerns, cheap shots, feel free to let me know. Ground rules, we're going to go through the agenda, introductions. And this is, I think Ken and I had talked about this in light of the fact that when you're going through a period of transition, and particularly unemployment, stress abounds completely, right? It's not a good thing. It's not a fun thing. I've been unemployed. It sucks. And it's very stressful. One of the things that I've heard people talk about in the last month, since I've been coming to these in the last couple of months, is you want to control what you can control to reduce your stress. And hopefully with today, we can get you around your money a little bit for a couple of things. Number one, to figure out where you're at with it. And number two, maybe even potentially to show you what you may need for income for an actual job, right? Because we're all looking for jobs, and we've all had salaries before in the past where we lived on the salary. And a lot of us get hung up on the salary that we, quote unquote, need in order to live our lives. It may not be true, right? Things may have changed. I talked to somebody recently, and they had just put all three of their kids through college, and they no longer had college expenses. Well, now all of a sudden they didn't have to make $150,000 a year. They could live on $100,000 a year, or even less, based upon where they were at given that point in time in their life. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here and some of the things we have that. So the objectives, setting financial goals, track spending habits, that's a big one. Set up a personal spending plan to estimate your income and expenses. Talk about ways of decreased spending, increasing income, aside from getting a job. And identify spending plans can help you manage your bills, right? These are all things that, again, are controllable by you, which in a lot of cases reduces the stress on you, given that this is a very stressful time in your life where you're looking for work, right? So this is a side where it just shows my firm. I'm Chris Shea. I work with 4 people, John LaMontagne, Dave Soltis, and Robert Hawkinson. We work in a team environment, just so we have that. Setting financial goals, right? This is one of the things that people talk about, but they should be SMART goals. Identify and write down your goals, organize them, educate yourself, and then evaluate your process. Make sure they're done in a certain period of time for what you want them to be. This has been talked about a lot in the world, but again, it's important blocking and tackling aspect of financial goal planning. If you don't have a goal, you're just kind of making money and spending it, you should be doing it tactfully. There are a lot of investment tools out there that talk about taking nickels and pennies from investments or from purchases and putting them to investment accounts. Those are all well and good, but you don't really have any thoughts or plans around it. If you haven't planned it, you're probably not going to reach it. So usually at this point in time, I would put people into an activity in the homework guide, in the participation guide for people to go over in terms of looking at things from in terms of a spending plan. All right. One of the things that I want to do here, give me 1 second. I want to pull up the participation guide to go through that. Let me make sure I can share this as well. All right. So in the participation guide, it's got a lot of things in here. And it got some questions that you can go through later on for yourselves. But creating a spending plan, right? It helps reduce the anxiety, and there are steps to a spending plan. One of the first things is just writing them down. So inside this guide, there's what did I spend money on today? These are things that you should be doing. You should be just writing them down and keeping track of them. Why? It'll help reduce your stress. You'll know where your money's going. Like I said, you've got enough stress looking for work right now. Control what you can control. A former boss of mine had a line that he used. It was dominate your environment. He meant it in terms of being able to dominate what you're doing for work and being the subject matter expert. Right now, I've taken that since then to mean dominate what you can control. So if you can control certain things, you want to be able to dominate that area of your world. So you want to be able to say, hey, look, I am going to dominate my spending so that I'm in control of it and I know what's going on. Okay. So again, in terms of in terms of where we're at with the presentation, use a spending guide. Record the money you spent. If you can right now, write down what you spent today. Write down what you spent this past week. And right, just so you understand exactly where your money's going. I personally use a spreadsheet. I go in and I don't do it daily, but I do it weekly, where I go in and I take all the receipts that I have, or I look on my ATM debit card account online and I say, hey, look, I spent, $25 here, $13 here. I put them into categories and I manage what I'm doing so that I know where my money's going so that I have control of it. Okay, so in the participation guide, again, you've got that in the chat. We'll put it up there again later if you came in a little bit late. But take control of that. It will be stressful at first, but over time, it will ease your anxiety around your finances. All right, we're going to talk about how you get a budget created. All right, income, again, basic definition here. Income comes from money that comes into your house right now, probably not wages, self-employment income, public assistance. There's right now a lot of unemployment going on, so there's unemployment assistance. We've got the Fed looking to do another stimulus package going on. Those are all things that you should be recording as income for yourself. If you got child support, interest and dividends, if you're old enough or on Social Security for some reasons, include those. But all of your income should go into your chart. And again, there's going to be a chart in the guide where you can put in all of your income. Okay, put it all in there. Record your tips so you know what you're bringing in. If you have a job where there or somebody in the household that has a job where they collect tips. Remember, there is a difference between gross income and total income, and gross income and net income. Gross income is what you get on your salary, quote unquote. Net income, though, is the income minus the deductions. When you take a job, the biggest thing that gets taken out first right off the bat is taxes. Then you've got your benefits that get taken out. So remember, you're looking at what your net income is, not what your gross income is. What actually comes in the house is what you're actually going to use. And remember, if you got Social Security, you've got retirement, disability, family, survivor, and Medicare benefits that are going to come out of whatever you're collecting on Social Security. So make sure that, again, you're taking account for what you are actually receiving on a periodic basis, monthly or weekly, however you're receiving those benefits. Expenses. This is things that you can control right now while you're still in this job search process. Fixed expenses, things that don't change from month to month. You got your rent, mortgage, you've got your insurances, you might have student loans for people, you might have credit card bills that you got to pay down. All these things are fixed expenses. Put them in one category. Second category, you want your flexible expenses. These are things that you have control over how much you pay on a month-to-month basis. Going out for dinner, buying your groceries, going out and having fun, right? All of these things, travel, are flexible expenses. And these are things that you can control. One of the biggest things when I talk to people is they don't realize how much this quote unquote life budget is for them because they don't think about it, right? I mean, one of the things that I talk about when pre-COVID was going to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. $4 or $5 on a cup of coffee. You multiply that by 5 days a week, and you're up to $20 a week, $80 a month, one person, easy. Change that up, go buy a Keurig, get some K-cups. Now in 2 months, you're saving money, right? So think of ways in which you can continue to live the life that you want while doing it in a more cost-effective manner for yourself. Okay. Activity 2, I'm going to go once again back to the guide here in a second. But this is going to be an example where you can walk through your income on the left and your expenses on the right, right? So you can total it up. And as I pull up the guide here, give me 1 second. Right, as you scroll down, you'll see the activity sheet, right? You've got your income over here that you can put in, your fixed expenses in a nice column here, telephone, internet, cable, some other things, flexible expenses, right? These are things that come up on a periodic basis. And you want to be able to put those in here to be able to come up with what you're going to be spending, right? And then here's the monthly. When do your wages come in? When do you get your checks for your public assistance right now if you're on unemployment? When do they come in? Do you fill in your request on a Sunday religiously every week and you get a check on a Wednesday? How does that work for you, right? You put that in there. And then you put in also any amount paid, right? So if you've got expenses due, right? These are, again, income here, expense bills. You might put in oil, water, electricity, credit cards, right in the date so that you have them and that you're able to keep track of them. Anybody got any questions right now about how all this works? Anybody any comments about any of this stuff? Has anything come up in the chat there?
I don't see anything in the chat,
Okay.
but if no one has a question, I'm going to ask a question. Well, I don't know if this is the right time or not.
Go ahead and ask.
Do you suggest as people do this, that they do this online with payments being taken out every month in addition to this? Is that as opposed to mailing things? Is there a pro or con to that, especially with the mail service the way it is these days?
I'm going to give a hedge answer of it depends.
Okay.
And that's not to walk away from it, but everybody has a personal preference, right? And it's got to go to what is comfortable for you. I personally put everything on an automatic payment. Why? I don't like to worry about it. My mother, on the other hand, she likes to write checks, but she had a system where she would write the checks a week before the bill was due to make sure that it got there in time, so there were no late fees. And that might be somewhere you do where, like, you say, okay, like, you know, the electric bill is due on the 15th. On your chart, you'll put in on the 8th, mail out the electric bill to make sure that it happens.
You're cutting out.
Who's cutting out?
Me? I'll hold this up a little bit. Just, you know, do it a week in advance. Send the bill out a week in advance.
I can't hear you.
Can everybody else hear me? All right.
Can anyone else? I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear him.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Good. So yeah, it depends upon how it works for you. Some people are really good at sending out the mail, right? For me, I look at 40, how much is on stamp now? 48, 49 cents?
55 cents, I think.
55, that's how long it's been since I've sent out something in the mail. I don't believe in setting up that 55 cents every single time I got to send a bill out. Now with technology, I look at ads and unnecessary expense where I can now take advantage of the technology and say, hey, look, I'm going to set this up on a recurring basis. I can set up to be on the due date. I can set it up to be on a different day. At one point in time, I worked at Accenture, and I was a consultant there. And we got paid on the 1st of the month and like the 15th of the month. It was bi-monthly we got paid. So I set up all my bills that had to be paid early in the month to be paid on like the 5th. I then went in and I knew I was going to get a paycheck on roughly the 15th or 16th of the month. I had another wave of bills that I set up to be auto paid on the 18th because I knew that I'd be getting a large paycheck on each one of those days. And then I would have money in my account to pay the bills. I didn't have to worry about timing of the mail getting lost, quote unquote, or getting delayed for snow or whatever the case may be. I chose to have the most control I possibly could. And in that way, I didn't have to worry about it. I knew what my income was going to be on each paycheck. It was wrote the same. And it was like, okay, I'm going to have this much to pay for this much to pay for this. We worked out, you know, having a little safety net of $5,000 or $6,000. So there was always money in there just in case for our unexpected bills and payments and things like that would come up. But I would try to do my best to ensure that what I could control, I control. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
It does. I'm just checking the chat to see.
Okay. I think Michelle has raised her hand. So
okay, Michelle, go ahead.
Had something?
Yeah, just wanted to mention that with mortgages, they caution you and some other kind of payments too, not to do them electronically, but hey, we do them anyway.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, that is just to make sure that things don't bounce as much. If the money's there. If you know that your money's there, you probably want to try and automate things as much as possible. But yeah, and so here's a cautionary tale on the mortgage though. You want to make sure that you don't pay it too early. And again, I'm going to use my family as an example. Years ago when my mother had a mortgage, she paid her mortgage on like the 1st or 2nd. She mailed one in 2 days early. And so it arrived like on January 30th, as opposed to February 1st or 2nd. They double credited her for January. as overpaying the principal, as opposed to putting the mortgage payment towards the next month. And now she missed a payment because she thought she had already paid for February. That was not a pleasing day for her when she found out that she had missed a payment, and now her credit was in the toilet, because if you miss a mortgage payment, it crushes your credit.
Roy had a question also. Roy?
So.
Yeah, I just unmuted. I was doing what you said, set up an automatic payment. So I was on the equal payment plan with public service, my gas, and it was 125, 125, 125, 800, and they just grabbed my money. And they said that they underbilled me for the previous time. Now, I didn't care about the 800, I could afford it. I just didn't care about the process. And then one other time I was billed incorrectly, and that was it for me. I get my MasterCard on the 23rd. It's due the 20th of the next month. I just go in and set it up to pay the 20th of the next month, but at least I've looked at it first rather than get it stuck to me.
Yep.
Elliot, what do you have to say?
I would still be, to Roy's point, I would still say you got to look at your bills, because you do have those periods of time where the bills get jacked up, for lack of a better phrase, and you want to make sure that you're on top of that. You just don't set it and forget it. This isn't a set it and forget it type thing. This is a set up the payment, look at your bill when it comes in. If you have a problem, you can always go in and cancel the auto pay or delay it, right? You can always do that. But for me, it was, I get it in the mail, I'd see it looked good, it looked reasonable, it would pay when it paid. So Elliot, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to comment. I think that advice about not paying the mortgage is very relevant. One other example I found on credit cards. So there used to be a time when the banks used to play games, and they basically would bill one for the actual statement amount, and people would dutifully pay it, ignoring the fact that, they may have returned merchandise in the meantime and really didn't have to pay that amount. Some banks, after all the agita, basically made it see the smile, you know what I'm saying? So the point there is, let's say, you get billed on February 1st, right? And you may have like a 20 to 25 day grace period. So it may behoove one not to wait too long. After all, they're not going to be billed for more than they paid on February 1st. But during that period of time, there might be, I don't know, insurance payment reimbursement, you return, blah, blah, blah. And so you may find out, you really don't need to part with X amount. You can part with an amount less than that. Here's one thing I wouldn't suggest except in an emergency. And I'm really interested in your comment on this, Chris. This is sort of like break glass routine. My understanding is that because you're only due for what was on the statement plus items that are returned, in case of a real emergency, there's nothing to prevent one from going to Home Depot to get something someone might use, might be, pretty expensive, snowblower or whatever. Snow sort of stopped for the season and whatnot. And then realize, oh my goodness, the snow has stopped for the season. And you return it the next week, all within this February period on which you owe from February 1. My understanding, and again, I'm not recommending this in general, my understanding, you know it's coming, is that technically you would only have to pay what was on the statement, including items that were returned. And the items that returned didn't have to be purchased before February 1st. So you would have a certain amount of leeway. In other words, 500 snowblower, you could pay essentially what's outstanding minus $100, minus it. You're giving yourself a loan. You're going to have to pay the piper next month. This is not a regular strategy, but it's just something that's out there. I'll take a breath now and let you speak. Thank you very, very much.
Well, I'm chuckling because, yeah, you can play games with a credit card company, right? Again, not recommended. Don't do this because you're just going to wind up getting yourself in trouble because you're just kicking the can down the line. However, the way it works, and again, I'm going to go focus on the way it works, not on my recommendation. The way it works is, say I got a balance of $500. I go out and I buy this $500 snowblower. The next week, I return it because I realized that I didn't need it. The $500 credit goes towards this month's balance due. So I might have a $0 balance for this month. I will have to pay $500 the next month, right? So they do it. They do it that way. But please don't start going out to the store and buying stuff and returning it because you've got bigger fish to fry than trying.
Absolutely, not recommended. Not recommended at all.
But yes, you can do that. For example, I got some extra money this month, and I have my credit card on auto pay. I decided to throw an additional $1,000 towards it early. My auto pay went from whatever it was down to zero because I had made my prepayment in advance. So it functions much the same way if you return goods. It's a payment in advance, and it will reduce, in a lot of cases, the amount that your bill is due for that month. Okay?
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Harry?
I see a couple more hands.
QuickBooks. What do you think of QuickBooks? Because I see a lot of stuff being written down, but with QuickBooks, you can just don't even worry about it. Set it up ahead of time and boom.
Can I punt on that one, Terry, for a couple minutes?
Sure.
We'll get there. At the end of this, we're going to talk about tools that you can use, and we'll talk about QuickBooks then. Can I? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Michelle, your hand's still up. Yes, no, maybe so.
Don't worry about it. I mean, it's
okay. All right. So, right. Any other questions, comments, concerns at this point in time?
I don't see any now.
All right. So again, if you can set that up, and again, it's in the participation guide that's in the chat, it'll give you, again, a sense of comfort. Maybe not comfort's the right word. A sense of knowledge of where your expenses are, so that you know better what you're looking at on a month-to-month basis as you go through these tough times. All right. How can you succeed? Right. There's three things here: decrease spending, increase income, and keep records. None of this is anything none of you have ever heard before. But again, given where we're all at with the economy and employment and unemployment, a reminder is sometimes a good thing. Decrease spending. It increases the amount of money that you actually keep, right? Do you need to go out to dinner, or can you go out and buy, some pasta and cook pasta on a regular basis? I know that I can go to BJ's or Costco or whatever and get an 8-pack of pasta for $8, right? That's now a week and a half, 2 weeks of food for me and my kid because there's just two of us. But try and figure out ways to decrease your spending, because that'll make it seem like you actually, your money goes farther. Increase your income. Again, some of these things you can do, some of them you can't do. You can earn an income tax credit if you have that. Tax credit on your children, dependent care expenses, education expenses, right? Credits. If you're doing education right now, see if those qualify for credits on your taxes next year. That will then increase your income. You won't have to pay as much in taxes. And again, retirement savings and contributions, probably not going to be anything until you start to work again. But it will be something in the future where you might be able to increase your income by putting money away into retirement, because you're going to decrease your taxes. And number three is usually where a lot of people, I find, fall short. And it's not anything personal. It is societal, right? Keeping accurate records sucks to do, right? It's a pain in the neck. Nobody likes to do it. I don't like to do it, but I do it anyway. Keep your records in a safe place. Organize them so it's easy to find your financial information. Put it in one drawer in the house. Tax records, 3 years. Please, 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 and I'm going to say this out of just what I'm going through right now. My mom's been sick since the beginning of the month, and I've gone in her house to clean it out so she can come home for it, hopefully out of the rehab center in a couple weeks. She had tax records from 2004 and 2003 in the 1990s. Don't keep your tax records for more than 3 years. Take them someplace, get them shredded, get them out of your house. Don't keep any of your other files for more than a year, right? You don't need to keep your electric bills for more than a year. Take them someplace, get them shredded if you're concerned about identity theft, and make sure that you get them out of your house, though, because you don't want to be looking at them going, what the heck is this? A couple of years later. And again, that last point there, like I said earlier, set up automatic payments online or mail bill payments 1 week before they're due. I talked about it earlier. I talk about it again because that's important to that question you asked, Ken, that what's in the best interest? It all depends on how you work. If you're really good at a calendar, and then when the calendar, your bills due again on the 15th, you put a calendar invite on your Hotmail or Gmail account or whatever, and it says, hey, pay your electric bill on the 8th, and you can make sure that it happens. You do it, right? But it depends upon what works for you. See a couple raised hands. Questions, comments, concerns?
Elliot?
Yes, Chris. It's funny because I was family member tax records going back to like the Johnson administration. Lyndon, not Andrew. And I'm sorry to hear about your mom, and I do hope she's on
the way back.
Better.
She's getting better.
Okay, that's good. It's the most important thing. Just wanted to get your comment on this. This might benefit people here, people who know people, and this is for children that might be starting college or in college now. And obviously in a position where you're saying, well, you know what, that's nice, but right now I need to put food on the table and whatever. My understanding, and correct me if I'm mistaken, is that for this, I know this for New York residents, I don't know if it applies to other states, for New York State residents, even if you never set up a 529 or whatever before, okay, you're gonna have to make do without it, whatever. If you're at a point where your child or whatever is going to be beginning or is in college or whatever, it may behoove you to set up the 529, to make a contribution in something risk averse, money market, whatever, so that you can, after making the maximum contribution for that year, I think it's up to 10,000. And again, this is not 10,000 you have to spare or whatever. This 10,000 will be withdrawn, shortly. Nat's eye blink, I don't know, but shortly, and given directly to the registrar that you were originally planning to do the payment. And by doing that, in addition to all of those other things, providing you're a state resident, whatever, you may get an additional deduction off your New York State taxes, whatever, on that. And you can repeat this year after year. You could even do that, child's in high school, they're going to be going next year, that come August or whatever you may. And if you don't know that, maybe colleagues of yours or whatever, has that changed? Does that make sense? This isn't, any comments on that?
So 529 plans are a wonderful way to, again, lessen your tax burdens because they come out of,
right.
The money isn't taxed at certain locations. You can always contribute to a 529 plan. One of the wonderful things about a 529 plan is that it is 100% transferable from one person to another. So in your set of circumstances, as you described, if you have a child that's in college and is going to go to college and you're going to be paying that bill next year and you're going to be spending $10,000 on it, put in a 529 plan, let it grow a little bit. You won't get any, you won't have to pay any taxes on the growth. Fantastic. All that money then goes to that whatever X university it is. That is always a good plan. That is always something I would recommend if you know you're going to have that expense, because then you can get the growth non-taxed.
But even if you're not going to have it grow, even if it's literally going to be earning 0 point nothing, just the deduction alone on that chunk of change, pull several hundred dollars in your pocket or whatever.
Yep.
That was my point.
That is a good thing. And here's the other part of that. Say your child decides not to go to college because they don't want to have the online experience that's going on right now. That can still be delayed and delayed and delayed. And that money can stay in that plan and you can keep adding to it. And eventually transfer it from, say, said child A to child B, or even to grandchild A or B, right? So it's not something that has to be spent on the person that you quote unquote set it up for, but it can be transferred to a later date. It can be even transferred back to yourself if you eventually spend it on, education, that's something like a lot of people right now are actually taking online courses and things like that. That's actually a good plan. If you're going to be spending money on education for yourself to better your career, 529 plans are used for education. It doesn't mean college. It means an education. So you might be able to spend money through a 529 plan that you set up, put it in there, and then pay the bill through the 529 plan. And again, you'll have some tax credits and tax savings there. And if there's any growth for the period of time that it's in there, you might wind up with a benefit as well. So it's actually a pretty good loophole if you are doing some education for yourself or for your kids. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that, again, I like to say that once people learn how money works, people don't worry about money again, because money is just a big game. And the rules of the game change, unfortunately, periodically when our governments change, which is one of the reasons why markets do better when there's a continuity in leadership in our country. Whichever side you agree upon, is irrelevant. When there's a continuity of rules, the economy functions better. So know the rules, understand the rules, play within the rules, don't break the rules, and you'll probably wind up doing better for yourself monetarily. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I don't see any now, no.
All right. So again, back to the...
Chris, it's John Sampson. I wondered if you had any thoughts on the best and worst credit cards you see out there now.
No, I don't, except for the fact that if you can find one right now with zero cost for membership, right? I mean, if you're in between work right now, find something that's zero cost to sign up for, that's not charging you an annual fee. In terms of what's the best credit card, again, that's a personal preference on what you want to do. I know for myself, when I did corporate travel before I became a financial advisor, my corporate expenses all went on an American Express card, simply because the benefits were great. I was putting on my travel, and I was traveling all over the country. I like to tell the story of my daughter. I'm going to take a quick dad moment here. My daughter was 3 years old. She decided she wanted an iPad, and we said, "Great, when you save up $750, you can get an iPad." Well, my daughter asked Grandma and Grandpa for money every Christmas, and by the time she was 4, she had saved up $750. She had done cans as well, like we did recycling cans, and we looked around and went, "Oh my God, she actually saved up $750. We got to get her an iPad." I looked at my American Express points, and I had 168,000-ish points, and we bought the iPad with my points, and we kept her $750 in her savings account, which she still has today. So that story is designed, one, to give me a dad pat on the back and a kid moment as well, but also to highlight the fact that the points and the rewards are things that are going to be different for everyone. A lot of people want the travel cards because they can go out and do travel. I know that, again, I was a member of Costco. I like the Costco card because I got big discounts, and as long as I paid the bill every month, the 18% interest rate, I didn't care about, because I was paying whatever off monthly. I was just putting my life on a credit card. Whatever works for your life is the one that's going to work best for you. So you got to factor in that annual fee. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. So really quickly here, again, part of the homework participation guide is the activity here of putting together your monthly calendar, right? So you're going to have in this a monthly calendar of, an example here, 7 September 2020. You can put this calendar up on a wall to where you can put in where your bills are going to get paid, so that you're fully aware of all that sort of stuff. Okay, and it's pretty important that you kind of do that, because that'll help you out. Okay, and again, put that in the participation guide, use it with everything. And again, here's this: use the system, right? I think it was Terry a little while ago asked me about QuickBooks, right? This is going to depend upon what you like to do. If you're a QuickBooks person, QuickBooks is a great tool. The problem with QuickBooks is if you're not someone who wants to get online and do that sort of thing, it is completely useless because it's not going to work for you. QuickBooks doesn't work for me because I can't get online and do it. However, I don't have a calendar like this. This calendar idea, again, is a good thing for some married couples to put on a wall and say, okay, this is when we're going to do it. You get the black for the income, the red for the outflow. It's up on a wall in the kitchen or wherever you guys do your books. Put it there so everyone can see it and knows exactly what's going on with your money. For me, what worked was a spreadsheet. And I got a spreadsheet that's 100 lines long. It includes everything. I get down to haircuts for me and my daughter. I get down to food in, food out. I even include a different line item for alcohol at home, because if you go out to a restaurant and drink alcohol, I consider that eating out, right? I break things down at that level because that's how my brain works. But how my brain works, definitely, probably for your benefit, is not how your brains work. You got to do it in the way that works for you. Sometimes some people use the expense envelope system, where you, beginning of the month, you take out $300 and you put it in the envelope, and that's what you got for the month to do on that. That's a method that's been popularized by some people in the media. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. Some people like to have a debit card. Whatever works for you is what's going to work best for you. But there are ways. And I'm also going to say this. The first month that you do this, you're not going to do it right. 99% of the time, you're not going to do this right. Why? Because it's changing, it's new, and it's something that you're going to have to get used to. I usually tell people 3 months to get this right is what you should set for your expectation. Because if you plan on that and you get it right in 2 months, even better. But you're not going to have it right the first month because you haven't been doing this. You have no idea where your money is going. You have no idea how to control it. You've got to learn the system. If you're going to use QuickBooks, if you're going to use a spreadsheet, you've got to set it up, and that just takes time. And don't beat yourself up for not getting it right the first month. This is a learning process. This is something that is going to take time. And particularly if you've got two people in the relationship, you're going to have to do some negotiation as to which way you want to go with this. And I do say strongly negotiation because some of them, I've worked with people where they've had loud negotiations and aggressive negotiations as to which way is better. Because one person is firmly entrenched in one way and one person is firmly entrenched in the other way. And you're going to have a little give and take on it to figure out what works best for the household if you're in a situation where there's two of you or more that are contributing to the bills, because sometimes you get kids in the house that are contributing to the bills as well. Okay.
Well, I have a few questions in the chat. Just
sure.
to
Go ahead. Fire them up.
All right. So, will disputed medical payment impact your credit score?
That depends on whether they report it to the credit company or not. Usually, they wait until reporting it till actually it gets done with the process. But once it does get reported to the credit company, that is when it will actually impact you. As long as they're in process, it shouldn't. And while we're on the subject of medical bills, if you've got large medical bills, they tell you to call up and to arrange a payment methodology. You can do that, and I would recommend that as a starting point. But even with medical bills, even if you pay as low as like $25 a month, they technically can't report you to a credit company as long as you're making that about a $25 a month payment. But right now, if you're struggling, try and minimize that. Okay.
Chris?
So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
I had exactly that situation the last time I was in transition. I had some surgery, had some bills. I just called them up, and they were more than happy to. They not only reduced the payment and extended the period with no interest,
right?
But they actually forgave a part of the bill.
Yep.
I found the medical profession, if you keep them informed, are one of the most cooperative groups to deal with.
Yeah, they because a lot of them, and again, I love the medical people. I love people in the medical profession. They make a lot of money, and they are subsidized slightly by the government in some cases, and they are willing to work with people because they do. Part of it is their reputation, and part of their job is to make sure that people are taken care of. So if you're having problems, give them a call. If they're willing to work with you, great, right? Like as Sam said, sometimes they work with you great, and sometimes they don't want to work with you as much. And if they don't want to work with you as much, well, that's when you go to plan B and be like, okay, look, I'm just going to spend $25 a month on this, and it might take me 4 or 5 years to pay it off, but you know what? That's what I can afford right now. Okay.
Pat had a question. You talked before about having the 529 for college or school. If someone was going to be, let's say, using services for coaching, or if you were to maybe bring a student in for coaching, I mean, how, or even someone in transition, I mean, are there other ways you can use the 529, or is that really specific just for the definition of what college and school is?
It's not college, it's education. So it's a 529 educational plan. It's not just for college. Coaching, you'd want to check with your specific plan for that in advance of taking that risk, because they might look and go, oh no, you're just circumventing something. But things like education, I know of people that have gone to trade schools. That counts as education. Right. So things like that, if you're going to go to a trade, that might qualify, but you're going to want to check with a plan before you start to invest the money as to what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. Because some of them, and I'd like to be able to say there's a blanket answer, but here's the reality. The 529 plans are put on at the state level, which means there are 50 different states that have different rules and regulations. And I can't keep up with 50 different states as to what their 529 plans do. I'd love to say I could, but I just don't.
So will you, someone asked if the slides will be available for this afterwards from the presentation.
I can send them.
Send them to me if you want, or.
Yep, I can actually put them in the chat here at the end, towards the end.
If you can send them to me too, just in case.
Yep.
Thanks.
I'll do that. But in the guide, I'll put the participation guide in there as well.
Okay, great.
In a couple minutes.
Okay, great.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hopefully no cheap shots yet. Okay. And again, when there's more expenses than income and paying loans, again, we talked about this a little bit. Expenses over income, a lot of us are having that problem right now in this country just because of the set of circumstances we're under, right? Pay your necessities first. Rent, mortgage, food, health and safety of your family when prioritizing bills, right? I'm in the Northeast. A lot of us are in the Northeast. Make sure you got oil. Make sure you got heat, right? You don't want to freeze to death. Seek assistance to help cover your expenses. Phone a friend, right? Phone loved ones, phone family members. Be like, hey, look, I'm hurting. And there are a lot of people out there that are willing to help right now, but it's up to you as the individual to ask for that help, not for people to offer it, right? So there are people out there and there are systems out there that can give you help. You know, as Sam brought up, you know, you talk to the companies and they might be able to work with you for a period of time and say, hey, look, you know, we get it. COVID's killing everybody, not figuratively, but literally with their finances. We'll give you 6 months off. I know student loans have gone and said, you know, we're going to forgive, you know, we're going to give you 6 months forbearance to not have to pay your student loans. We're going to tack on the interest at the end. But, you know, you can take that 6-month period of time, right? Look for that. Again, trouble paying your loan. Don't look at the balances. Look at the interest rates. The interest rate is far more important than the balance when there's times of challenges like right now. If you got a credit card that's 17%, a credit card that's 10%, and a mortgage that's 3%, or 5% or whatever, pay the minimum on the mortgage, pay the minimum on that 11%, and pay the most you possibly can on that 17% to pay it down as fast as you possibly can. Again, talk to your creditors. The world right now, more than any other time in my lifetime, and most of the people on this, understands the problem that we're all having financially. Talk to your creditors. Give them a call and be like, hey, look, this is what I'm going through. What can you do to help me? I want to pay down my bills. As Sam mentioned, be open and honest with them and say, hey, look, I want to pay this off. I don't want to, welch on it, but I can't do this right now. Here's what I'm at. Here's my income. Here's my outflow. I can't make this bill. They might again say, okay, we'll give you 6 months to figure it out. Get back to us in 5 months and let us know where you stand. Right? But then if they say, get back to us in 5 months and let us know where you stand, make sure you put that in your calendar and you call them back in 5 months and say, hey, here's my update. Right? Don't leave them stiff, because then they'll bring the hammer on you. Okay? Credit counseling services are out there. Right? They can help you with managing some of these things. Again, reach out, call them, ask about getting some help from credit companies that are non-profit and don't cost. They exist. You just got to look for them and find them. And then the last resort is declare bankruptcy, but hopefully you don't have to get through that. I see a hand up. Question?
Terry had a question. Just to let everyone know, we have about a little more than 5 minutes left. So Terry, go ahead.
Okay. I was able to not pay any utilities or anything because due to COVID, we are in a national emergency and we do not have to pay it. I did call up my health company and they gave me a hard time because they don't want to listen to the fact that we're in a national crisis. And they're like, well, you have to pay this. And I told them, no, we don't. And I just want to tell everybody that, if you have this situation where you call these people and they're saying, well, you have to pay it anyway, tell them, no, you don't. You have this COVID instance and it does not have to be paid.
Particularly with the healthcare companies, like literally if you pay $25 a month, that is paying towards your debt, and they can't report you. Some of them do. And that's when you get into a dispute about that.
Won't you eventually have to pay it though?
Yep, you do. Okay. Eventually. But it's something to give you time, right? This is about buying time and getting through a period of time where your life is hard enough, right? Right. So here's an example, a scenario in the thing to look at. You can look at it and give some answers. But again, mention we have about 5 minutes left. Hopefully you've got benefits of budgeting have been shown to you, showing you how to create a spending plan, showing you the monthly spending schedule and the calendar. And hopefully you got some ideas to help keep in mind while you're planning your budget and getting through this really hard time that completely sucks for all of us. With that, again, any questions, anything you want to share? If you want to do an evaluation, you can let Ken know and he can tell me how badly I did or how great I did.
I would say, as a matter of course, everyone should get a copy of their credit report.
Yeah.
At least once a year. It's free. And because I know Dara asked about old credit card charges off your credit report. Again, you look at your credit report, you might be surprised what's there. What information is there? So just to do that. And Elliot has a question too, I see.
First, I wanted to say thank you very, very much. That was a very, very informative. Took a lot of notes there. Thank you very much, Chris. Someone had asked before about a credit card, and again, as you mentioned, it's a very personal decision. I just found if you just want the cash, you want to have the ability to fly, but primarily the cash, and I don't get paid, but I'm going to plug it, depends on qualifying. Shea Sapphire Preferred. It's a non-waivable 95 annual fee. However, you have to, as Chris mentioned, go through your cash flow and what your expenses would be over a period of time. If you can consolidate them and put on something like over a 3-month period, $4,000, they will give you $600, and this is pre-tax. This will not be tax cash. This is literally like $600 a bank. It's not like a promo from a bank in which you have to get a 1099 INT. Take away the 95, you have 500. You probably spend some money on, you're getting points for that. So basically, you're getting about 12% bonus on each of those 4,000 that you're spending. You can't beat that. And before the end of the year, whatever, you've paid your dues, you can close the account, and you have 600 tax-free in your pocket, less the whatever on there. Go to town. It's like full unemployment check. Just a suggestion.
The other thing to think about is, I don't know how the federal is. I think they take tax. If you don't have taxes taken out of your unemployment, you're going to have to eventually, come to grips with that.
Yes.
So
on the bank accounts, you do get a 1099 end at the end of the year, by the way.
Not on the credit. On the bank accounts, yes. Not yet on the credit. That is free money.
But definitely think about that, because people I talk to are like getting in for a little bit of sticker shock that they're going to have to pay back all the money that they didn't have taken out for taxes. So it's just another thing to think about.
If I'm not mistaken, Kenneth, I think New York State basically gives you an option. You don't have many. You have either yes or no. The yes is, this is how much we're going to take out of your federal, 10%, and this is how much we're going to take out of your state. Take it or leave it.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say that in New Jersey, they typically take out 10%. And for most people, unless you've been on unemployment for a very long time, most of the year, 10% is not enough. So you will have to pay the federal government more money and taxes for your unemployment benefits. You don't have to pay New Jersey, but you probably will have to pay the federal government. So people should be prepared for that sticker shock.
And one other thing, Chris, I don't know if you've heard of this or whatever, in New York State, at least, and this probably would work in Jersey as well. Last October 2019, for the first time in 10, 12 years, they raised the maximum to just over $500. Most financial institutions will pay you. You're not going to be able to retire on the Riviera on it, but they will pay you $200, $300 if you put in, and it doesn't have to be forever. It could be as little as 1 payment, 2 payments or whatever, direct deposit into their institution. They may ask you to hold an additional 1,000 for a period of time and then withdraw it. Long story short, again, this is not like you should still look for the job and do all of those other things and do the budgeting and whatever. However, just something to keep in mind. You can make, some nice 4 figures just simply having, for the period of time you're out, your unemployment routed to institution A for a period of time, and then bring it back to your own bank, or maybe institution B. They're out there. They don't care where it's coming from. It's a direct deposit cash flow, and they will give you that money. That money will be taxable, but listen, don't sneeze at $100, $200, $300. End of speech.
So thank you very much, Chris. This was very, very helpful. I wanted to do this presentation in a very general way so that everyone has some good ideas as to what to do, and I'll send the presentation out when I get it. And
I posted in the chat too, so.
I think you posted the PDF in the chat.
I posted both.
All right, well.
I'll get them to you anyways.
Yeah. So have a great day, everyone. We have Lauren Greif coming next week. And Chris, you're welcome back another time if you'd like to attend, or I'll leave that up to you because I see a lot of positive feedback.
So if you're willing to have me, I can talk about this again, or I can talk about something else. So
well, definitely
it's all about, look, the reality, and this is my philosophy. I call myself a financial advisor, not an investment advisor, because I like to help people with their money. I'm going to give a quick, I know we're at the last, but look at your insurance payments for your car insurance and things like that. If you pay annually, I know it's hard right now, but you usually pay less annually than you do monthly, which is the money that you can save, right? So if you do have a bit of money in the bank, look at things like that to, again, save money so you put more money back in your pocket, which will reduce your stress on how to get through this really stressful time in between working and with the health. So I
know one of the things that Chris wanted to do was do breakout rooms. So I think we may want to do breakout rooms next time, because I think for now I just wanted to get a sense of the group. So I definitely think breakout rooms next time would be really good. And then maybe if Chris, if you wanted to figure out how it's going to work, we could do it that way then.
Sure, whatever, man. It's your meeting. It's
no, it's their meeting. It's not my meeting. I mean, I run the meeting, but I like to get the feedback from everyone else. So everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
all right.
Just a
Enjoy
quick note on medical
Yeah,
bills and stuff. My wife works in the medical field in insurance,